Welcome to the On the Air podcast, a companion to On the Air magazine, a bi-monthly magazine from ARRL for beginner to intermediate ham radio licensees. I'm your host and the editor of On the Air magazine, Becky Schoenfeld, W1BXY. Every month, the On the Air podcast extends material found in On the Air magazine to help you learn about the many things the ham radio hobby and service has to offer. The On the Air podcast is sponsored by ICOM for the love of ham radio. Welcome to the July 2026 episode. The July-August 2026 issue of On the Air included the article Rediscovering Ham Radio Through POTA by Evan McPartland, KC2NRB. This article explains a bit about the popular Parks on the Air program known as POTA, in which ham radio operators known as POTA activators set up temporary stations in parks that have a specific alphanumeric POTA designator. Evan is here with us today to talk a bit about how he became a POTA hunter of those activators and how he became an activator himself and how other hams can get in on the fun of the Parks of the Air program. Welcome, Evan.
Hi, Becky. Thanks for inviting me here.
Thanks for being here. So Evan, in your article, you mentioned that you had been away from ham radio for a long time. I think you said about 15 years. And you had to look up POTA when you first heard someone calling CQ POTA on the air. Can you talk a bit about what you were thinking as you answered that first POTA CQ?
Yeah, no problem. So there was a lot of things that were new in that 15 years. FT8 was not a thing. Yeah. So stuff like that, which is pretty popular now too. So I heard someone call CQ POTA on 20 meters one day on a weekend, and I was like, what is POTA? And I'm like, and I kept hearing I heard it in a couple spots, and it's every once in a while I look up the contest, and usually something like Kansas QSO Party or some other state, and looked it up, and I was like, this is cool. And then it reminded me of something my dad, who's also ham, Patty's WS2A, he had mentioned POTA at a ham fest that we were at. He was like, oh, it's this thing in a park. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. So when I read the rules a little bit, and I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, it's pretty easy to start as a hunter. Let's just see how this works. And I know the community is pretty open when you make a mistake. So if I make a mistake, someone will correct me, I'm sure. And I just did the thing and said, gave my signal report, came right back, and it was over like that. And all of a sudden I got my first contact in POTA.
Yeah. Were you hooked from that first contact, or when did that happen for you?
That first contact was also be like testing out a new radio. Oh, and yeah. It was like so it was this, it was kind of exciting. Like I was like, okay, like this is quick and easy. And it was like, it did remind me of Field Day, which I always loved Field Day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say I was right then and there. I was pretty hooked to it.
Yeah. So once you made that first contact with that activator that you heard, you mentioned that you became more of a POTA hunter after that. I believe your article says for about a year, you became more of a hunter. What was that like? What kinds of things did you find yourself doing during that first year as a hunter?
So as a hunter, I was trying to, I was looking at some of these awards that they had, and in the very beginning, they get you hooked because they give you those awards and you rack them up pretty quick in the beginning. And as you progressively do more and more, they do get harder and harder to get. So that first year was like, I've always tried to get worked all states. I started ham radio when I was about 12 years old in about 2004, dating myself, but always tried to get worked all states. And it was a little harder back then because there was just, there was no just everyone being out there. So that was one of the first things I started working on. And as I was doing it, this idea of activating also became more intriguing and I became more comfortable with the hobby. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what got me hooked to it too. And it was like a video game in a sense, like the scoring and the way it all works. It doesn't, there's no clear winner. It's just a rolling, board that keeps going.
Yeah. So you're you are sort of competing against other people, but you're also competing against yourself to see how much you can rack up next. So you mentioned the awards for hunters. Are those like number of contact awards, like 50 parks, 100 parks? What are those awards like?
I mean, there's so many to list, but
Yeah.
and I don't know them all. But yeah, there was like worked all states was one, which
Mm.
that was the one I was pretty focused on and eventually did get. I'm still missing Alaska, but I got DC. Um, that yeah, there's awards for activating the same park. I'm sorry, hunting the same park 10 times. There's awards for how much just straight up contacts, how many contacts you can make in general, right? So. Um, and how many parks you have hunted. So it gets as basic as that to something as complicated as working the same park or entity, getting every park in every state.
Yeah.
That seems
Yeah.
like a pipe dream at the moment, but
So you said your initial goal was to get POTA worked all states. So you said you have everything but Alaska so far?
yeah. And then you have the
Yeah.
wild card of DC that'll give it to you.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Alaska, and I kind of was really working on that over the winter was probably a
Yeah.
bad time to start. I bet if I went on now, it'd be a lot easier. But yeah, Alaska, and where I'm at, it's just I'm in lower Alabama, so
Yeah.
it's not exactly the easiest skip to get.
Yeah. Up to Alaska. Yeah. So you did eventually become a POTA activator, going out to parks yourself to set up and get on the air. What has that experience been like?
I genuinely enjoy activating more than I do hunting. It is now the burden of the log, as I put it, is on the activator, which is what the way it should be. I think it was designed so well that way because it makes that barrier to entry very easy to get into.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
yes, so for me, I was like, okay, well, I've always been a bit of an outdoors person. I've always liked hiking. It was in the Boy Scouts when I was younger, so it was something that was always interested me. My wife was also big. She's a big runner, and we like going on hikes and parks. And this kind of combined both those hobbies together.
Yeah.
So we tried it. I tried it at home first. Got a setup that kind of I was like, okay, this works. I think I talked to somebody in Oklahoma out of my backyard off
Mhm.
that setup. So I was like, okay, proven, works. 5 watts, did it. Then that first park was a pretty good rush. I think the first park I hit, I only did was in somewhere in like it was in Alabama, and I made about 16 contacts on 5 watts. Um, and then I was working, quote unquote a pileup. I didn't know at the time was nothing. But I had like 10 guys, like 10 people come in like right after
Mhm.
the other, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It feels like your DX station. And
Yeah.
then at the like
Mm.
the, right at the end of the day, like I got someone France came back, and I was like, there's no way. It was my wife is sitting right next to me, and I was again just getting kind of back into it, and
Mhm.
she's like, is that did that guy see France? I was like, yeah, he did. So I guess the propagation was good that day.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess so.
and then the next time we went out, we did a park out on the Panhandle of Florida,
Mhm.
right on the Gulf, and we hiked for a little bit, and then I set up, and uh, that time I brought a battery with me, and
Mhm.
we were pushing about 100 watts, and I think I made 77 contacts that day. For a span of only maybe 4 hours. It was just nonstop, and I was
Oh,
like, "This
wow.
is
Yeah.
yeah." That was the itch that everyone wants to scratch, right?
Yep.
Like just working a pile up and just like you are the popular guy right now.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, because you
it was,
never know who needs that park, who needs that state. Yeah, it
yep,
can get pretty exciting.
yeah,
What
it was a lot of
is
fun.
what's the farthest you've traveled so far to activate a park?
So the farthest indirectly was West Virginia, just because my brother lives up there. Well, has that place
Mm.
up there. So we went up there for Thanksgiving one year, and that's where I was actually I showed my dad POTA. We went to there was a wildlife management area right next to where his house is, and it's like let's
Mhm.
just go over there and activate it, and we did, and on 40 meters I think, and he had a great time. Now he's really into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I got him into that that way. But yeah, that's the farthest. And then I think some of the more exciting ones we've done too is Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Mhm.
I would we did that park and then another park I think in North Carolina that same or we did both sides. It might have been that, but if I'm recalling that correctly. But yeah, that's pretty. We've traveled that far, and we do have. My wife does like to try to do marathons in every state, so we're
Oh,
also
cool.
combining it that way. Where all right, I'm going to bring my ham gear with me. We'll
Mhm.
find a park. You run your marathon, I'll find a park. I'll activate it, on that
Yeah.
same weekend. So we're doing it that way too, and trying to work all the states the same way.
Yeah, that's cool. Because it really is one of the things a lot of people love about it is that combination of getting to spend time in the outdoors. And, as you mentioned, you and your wife are hiking, and then after a while you set up and get on the radio for a little bit. It's kind of, the best of a couple of different worlds there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So as an activator, have you hit any of the POTA awards yet?
I did hit a couple of them, just like, a couple park to park ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to just come up, trying to think of what awards. I think I've not gotten too many,
Hmm.
just because of like again the activating part is a little like you get a lot of contacts, but just the whole setup and you got to get up. You're committing some time to it, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more fun. So I haven't gotten too many of those. Maybe just like just over 10 activations.
Cool. Do you have any POTA goals of where like a certain park you'd like to go to or a certain award you'd like to hit? Do you have any things that you're working toward with being an activator?
Yeah, there's two things that I'm really working for, and they may be awards, they may not be, but I'm pretty sure this one is, but I would like to activate a park in every state. That is
Mm.
one thing for sure. And the other thing is to work every national park, like the original one. So it's like
Oh yeah.
we got Great Smoky Mountains, the double O's, right? So we're that's kind of a goal of mine too, and it's an excuse to just go visit these parks too. It's just another
Mhm.
reason to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So do you have any advice for um, a ham, maybe a newer ham who wants to get started in POTA?
The, the first thing I would say is just try hunting first. I mean,
Mm.
they put the burden of the log on the activator for a reason, and it's the person who's going to be out there and going out there will have like the background to upload that log, and it makes that barrier of entry so easy. All like I was trying to explain to my dad when we were getting started, like, okay, when
Mhm.
you hunt, you just make that contact,
Yep.
right? You get used to that exchange, and then once you got that kind of like cadence more or less down, like what you get comfortable with that. Start looking at activating because I think I know I do, but I think you'll find it's way more fun activating and working those contacts because it's just so busy. And then there's plenty of resources on YouTube and on the ARRL website of what to do, how to do it. I mean, I found paper logs, and then at that point,
Mm.
just do it, make your mistakes. It's going to
Yep.
happen. But this is not a competition, right? This is a self kind of inflicting thing. So you can afford these mistakes and just learn from them and keep going.
Yeah. That's great. So start as a hunter. Hunters don't even have to upload a log. So as a hunter, you just get the fun of making contacts with parks and from the comfort of your own station, probably in your own home. That's great. That is a great way to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks again, Evan, KC2, NRB, for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We're going to be back again in August, but in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments about On the Air magazine, you can send them to ota@arrl.org. And if you'd like to learn more about ARRL, you can visit arrl.org on the web. I'm Becky Schoenfeld, W1BXY, and I will see you next month, 73.